What is up, everybody? Sysadmin Sean here, and today we're going to be doing a week in sysadmin news. A bunch of stuff's been going on in the media. You're probably aware of all of it, but just in case you're not, we're going to lay it out here, kind of explain a few things, and give you the lowdown on what's going on in the world of IT and sysadmin. So let's go over here. So the first piece of news I've got up here, which I kind of don't care about, but other people might, is, hey, ESXi Free is back. It is available. As far as I've heard, it is a super big pain in the cost. I love that they're throwing Nutanix ads on here. I heard it's a pain in the butt to get into. I feel like this is too little too late, which a lot of other people that I've spoken with about this kind of feel the same. You're sort of either still using VMware or you've migrated off to another product. The one thing I do think is a benefit in this bit of news is that people will be able to practice again for free at home, which doesn't hurt to have that little VMware skill set in your back pocket. It's still a good piece of software for now. I don't know what's going to change in the future, but if you can afford it, it's worth keeping around, especially if you have certain use cases that VMware offers a solution and other places don't. And then another big one that came through is that funding for the CVE program, MITRE, had been basically not extended. Now, the way the US government works is usually you schedule your, what am I thinking of here? Your money, we'll say that, your budget for the year. There we go. And that takes you until the next year. And then before the next year starts, you start queuing up all the money you're going to need for next year. And it sounded like what had happened was no one had really queued up the money for the CVE program, CVE being basically the vulnerability database that kind of tells you, hey, this CVE number is related to this Fortinet vulnerability. I'm going to pick on Fortinet because it feels like they have CVEs more than anybody else these days. And that helps keep track of what's vulnerable, how vulnerable it is, what you need to do to mitigate it. You know, all that information gets aggregated into the CVE pack. So this caused a bit of a, oh my gosh, panic. But luckily, at the last minute, CISA came in and made sure that there's no lapse in CVE services so that you could continue getting that CVE database without too much worry. I did notice a couple of places where they had decided to stand up their own CVE databases, basically mimicking what MITRE had been doing and keeping that going. But I don't know if that's going to be really important. And I'm also reading that there's a potential that the CVE program is going to move completely independent in the future, but we'll have to wait and see on that. The next big thing that came out this week was 2 updates to VMware vCenter. This is the main update, and then this is patch notes to fix a bunch of bugs in that new main update. I don't know anybody that deploys these updates on release day. I would never recommend it. Usually you pick a long-term release and you stay on it until you absolutely have to shift, because a lot of times VMware vCenter bugs creep up throughout the first 6 months of the new release deployment. So this is more of a put this in your test environment, your dev environment, and see how it does. See if it's worth it. On the flip side of that, Proxmox released its 8.4 version, basically utilizing I believe a new kernel and a couple of new highlights, live migration with mediated devices, API for third-party backup solutions, VirtIOFS. So this is a new way to do pass-through for storage if you want to, instead of using like NFS or SMB or any of the other options. And then, yeah, based on Debian 12, Bookworm uses Linux kernel 6.8.12. So a lot of cool stuff in here if you need it. It's usually really simple to update Proxmox for now. There's not so much going on in that system yet that it's a little bit nerve-wracking. I will say we aren't updating right now because ours is still in a Ceph HCI system, and we are still practicing the idea of maintenance moding a host, making sure that it's safe to reboot that host and that the Ceph cluster doesn't freak out when we do so. So we're still kind of learning that. Also, Proxmox backup server got an update back on April 10th. Basically just the new kernel and then some ZFS compatibility stuff. And then the big last thing is SSL TLS certificate lifespans are going to be reduced to 47 days by 2029. This is a big deal. A lot of places where I've worked, we did not have SSL certs automated. We're working on that now where I work, where I would say 85 to 90% of our certificates are automated now. We don't have to think about it. We have Acme creds put in, we have software that goes out, renews the certificate, and it's just done. The problem is that 10% of either a vendor appliance or a vendor piece of software that only lets you manage those SSL certificates via their GUI. Now, sometimes there's ways around that. Like I know for products like Easy Proxy, you can kind of sneak the certificates in and just rename them, and it'll just keep thinking that the active certificate is the same one when really it's a new cert. But there are tools to kind of automate clicking, copying files, applying, and things like that that you might have to look into more, or moving your traffic behind a web proxy that can then do all the automated certificates for you if you need to. But yeah, as you can see, March 15th, 2026, the lifespan is going to go down to 200 days from 365. March 15th, 2027, it's going to go down to 100 days. And then in 2029, 47 days, and DCVs to 10 days. So make sure you're on the goal path of getting these certs automated. I can't stress that enough. The sooner you get it automated, the better your life is overall anyway, because then you're not going, oh no, when do I renew that certificate? When is it due? Did I get my emails from my vendor? If I'm using Let's Encrypt, I don't get emails anymore. So how do I handle that? All that kind of stuff. Get your certificates updated. But yeah, that is about it in the world of sysadmin news that I've seen. If you know of any other news that you want to talk about, post it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. I hope you all enjoyed the Linux Skill Up Challenge videos I made. And coming up next, I think I'm going to do a series on monitoring and alerting and some different systems that you can use for that. So stay tuned and we'll see you in the next one.